If people were not only free in principle, but able to effectively withstand or fight back against the pressures of their society and government, I doubt that Allah would condone slavery in any period, ancient or contemporary. Contrary to what modern, privileged, and individualistic Westerners might want to believe, however, humans have never been truly free, neither in Islam nor under any other dispensation. No one but a lonely hunter or a hermit in the forest could safely claim to have severed all social ties and be free to make decisions entirely on his own. But if you live in a village, which we will call Borderton, farm or fish from a common stock of resources, buy or sell goods in the local market, marry someone who speaks your language and understands your customs, raise your children alongside your neighbor's children, and participate in so many other ways, explicit and implicit, in the life of the community, you are not really free. Your king, governor, local lord, or village head owns you. Your neighbor's gossip occupies your brain. Your friends rule your thoughts, and the welfare of your spouse and children tug constantly on your heart. When the time for war comes, you have virtually no liberty, no imaginable right even, to complain or protest. And in nearly all cases, you lack the ability to resist or think otherwise. You belong to them. It is on this plain fact, this often brutal reality, that the logic of slavery rests. When the king of beyond declares war against the prince of anywhere, the soldiers who are fed the lies, given the weapons, and led down the road for battle are little more than pawns and game points in a struggle that is usually not about them at all. The only way anywhere can defeat Beyond's attack is, unfortunately, killing those poor pawns or removing them from the playing field, and capturing or destroying the mental and physical resources that enable their fight to go on. Anywhere usually has no quarrel with the villagers of Borderton, but must nonetheless take and hold all it can, including Borderton, to get beyond, to admit defeat. What it captures, it keeps. As a lesson to beyond and what lies past beyond, to prevent such an attack from happening again, to make anywhere stronger for the next war, and even to convince beyond that its cause is just and that beyond should become part of anywhere. In other words, in a war between large groups, and the Muslims were meant to form one such group, the members of each side are resources that are never returned, unless a peace deal allows for an exchange of prisoners, and are either used to strengthen one's own group or, at the very least, forever denied to the enemy. Captured soldiers are put to work doing whatever they do best, cutting wood, tilling the ground, building roads, or practicing some craft, if their skills are only manual, or adding value to society as scribes or teachers, if they have been blessed with mental abilities. All that captive manpower is converted from serving beyond to serving anywhere. The same general principle applies to captive women. Whatever goods they were providing to beyond before with the little freedom they had, such as weaving, sewing, gathering, harvesting, preparing food, raising children, and serving their fathers and husbands, have now been seized by anywhere as resources that are denied to beyond and used to strengthen anywhere. Their degree of freedom is almost nil, for someone officially owns them, but the services they offer are essentially the same, namely contributing to the prosperity and happiness of the community. And one of those services was before, and continues to be, the gratification of their menfolk, that is, sex. Most men need sex, but male prisoners of war may never get it, and might die without it if they remain labor slaves. Most young and healthy women also need sex, though they might not want to say so, and are almost certain to get it if they are sex slaves. If you are a slave, however, choice is not an option and consent is a privilege, not a right. After all, Muslim wives are warned in several ahadith not to make consent an issue with their husbands unless they are indeed unwell or indisposed. As numerous cases in the Western world clearly demonstrate, the on-again, off-again nature of consent between sexual partners is a minefield better left out of the courts unless some obvious harm is involved. In Islam, men are not allowed to harm women, nor are masters allowed to harm slaves beyond some mild forms of physical discipline that are not injurious. If harm can be proven, then a Muslim qadi should intervene. In his book, Slavery and Islam, Professor Jonathan Brown provides numerous examples of slaves being emancipated for having endured abuse from their masters. Men were made by God to protect women, enjoy them, and make use of them. Women were made to please men, accept their protection, enjoy them, and make use of them in their own way. A female slave used for sex is using her ability to placate her master, who is probably richer or more powerful than the average Muslim citizen, to advance her interests and those of any children she might have with him in ways that would be beyond her reach and beyond. If she has a child from her master who later dies, the law states that she, as the Walad, mother of the child, and her children are automatically free. Were concubines mistreated in the Islamic world? Of course, many were. Any power imbalance will produce abuses. But since abuse is prohibited, as it is in Islam and should be in a just Islamic community, the position and opportunities of the sex slave are far more substantial than the chance for advancement offered to male slaves. With good looks, good genes, good behavior, and good luck, a female slave could go far in her new world, and many did. They were more likely to progress if they were patient, adaptable, and agreeable. And agreeability is a trait far more common in women, as psychologists tell us, than in men. For their own sake and for their children, women are willing to prove again and again that they are adaptable survivors. The term sex slave has gained currency in a world that sacralizes both sex and freedom. But sexual freedom often leads to prostitution and promiscuity, while the limitations imposed on a slave remove those ever-present symptoms of modern Western decadence from the public arena by the force of Islamic justice, and redirect both sex and freedom to the greater good of the Muslim community. By bringing captive women into protected, stable sexual relationships with the dominant and ideally the best Muslim men of the community, Allah permitted what could only be moral when the men were members of a just society and their female slaves could benefit materially and spiritually from that interaction. It is only on these terms and with these conditions that I consider ma malakat aymanukum, what your right hands possess, to be both defensible and practical when war was an unfortunate but necessary part of a viable Islamic system.